Eli Campbell here. One thing that makes Steamboat special is how many awe-inspiring people call our valley home. You could find yourself in line at the coffee shop next to an Olympian, or sitting on the gondola next to the founder of a world-renowned business. Our community produces and attracts the best of the best in their respective fields, but most are so humble about it you would never know. These extraordinary people are the common folk in the boat. Welcome to Common Folk in the Boat. Eli Campbell here with you. Dave Whitlinger joining me as always from Billo Premium Cannabis. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well, Eli.
Wow.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, it took you a while to think about that, but when the answer came, it was...
You know, one of my pet peeves, all too often, people say, how you doing? And your natural is, oh, I'm good.
I'm okay.
When people ask me, I try to really think about it. They're asking me a question. They want an answer.
My standard is usually, I'm peachy.
Peachy.
Yeah,
don't ever say that if I ask you.
Oh, okay.
It's a little weird.
I'll come up with another one for you.
Peachy. All right, you must live with young children.
I do. I like to make them laugh with dad jokes all the time. In fact, I've got a little daily dad joke calendar by my bed.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You wake up every morning and just spring one? Like,
pretty much.
At the breakfast
Pretty
table?
much. They love me for it, but, you know, they're younger than your kids. So soon enough, they're going to go, Dad.
I know.
Anyway, we're here. We're in September. It is one of my, I think, probably my favorite month of the year in Steamboat.
I'm glad you said that. That was going to be my thing. Is I love this time of year. Like, I was thinking about this on a bike ride the other day. I don't know why, but I ask myself questions and I answer them to myself.
Yeah.
When I'm by myself.
When you're by yourself.
Makes you sound sad.
You're such an extroverted person. You have to be talking constantly, even if you're the only one there.
So in my head, there's a lot of conversation. And I said to myself, if I had to pick one time of year that I would live in Steamboat, it would absolutely be September, October, whatever you call that time of year, other than just autumn. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it is a beautiful time of year, but it also is a serious time of year. It is Suicide Prevention Month. We're throwing a lot of our efforts here at Steamboat Locals Media behind Suicide Prevention Month, a whole series of blogs about mental health and the resources, and we're going to be talking to Mindy Marriott here, who is the executive director of REPS, Reaching Everyone Preventing Suicide. I know Billo is a big sponsor of their events, as are we, with the Night of Hope and Healing coming up, so we're very excited about that, but it is going to be a serious conversation that we're going to have here.
Yeah.
But before we get into that serious conversation, we always like to start with what is Billo high on. So what's Billo excited about right now?
Well, I would say it piggybacks exactly on what you just said. So one of the things that we're excited about is that at Billo, we have the benefit of working with some really great brands, really great vendors. So brands that you'll find across the nation, across the state. And we've been able to work with a couple in particular specific to reps to help fundraise all month long. And those are Wild Edibles, Wild Gummies, if you're not familiar. Escape Artists, they make an incredible lineup of different products. And then Coda, which is an infused chocolate bar. So those three vendors have come on board with Billo in the month of September, and we're donating $1 for every unit that is sold by those three brands to reps, and that is huge. I love the fact that we at Billo can leverage these national relationships with these bigger brands to then bring money into our community in a very impactful way. So we're very high on that right now.
Yeah, and it's an important cause. We're going to talk to Mindy a little bit about that, and it's one of the things that, like I said, at Steamboat Locals Media, we are putting ourselves full effort behind with our blog writers, our podcasters, we're going to be talking about it, but all of our other podcast content creators are going to be talking about it. Right now, it's our beneficiary reps is for a song request. Every song request in the month of September earns $2 towards reps, courtesy of John Wade and the Steamboat Group. So it's one of the reasons I love working with Billo too, is just kind of collaborating on, you know, you're not just a pot shop, if you will. You guys really have such a positive impact in the community. So
we try. Try. That's all you can do.
But we are going to have a wonderful conversation with Mindy coming up. It will dive into some deep context, and I think it's always important that we preface this by saying if you or anyone you know is having suicidal thoughts, there are places where you can get help. REPS is certainly one of them. There are crisis intervention hotlines. 988, I believe, is one as well. And so we just want to preface that we will be getting into some tough topics, but in a way of talking about hope and healing moving forward as well. So we'll be right back with Mindy Marriott of Reaching Everyone Preventing Suicide. Welcome back to Common Folk in the Boat. Eli Campbell here with you, Dave Whitlinger, and now we're joined by Mindy Marriott of REPS, Reaching Everyone Preventing Suicide. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
To be here.
It's a really important time of year for you to be joining us and talking to us. Suicide Prevention Month, which is something that we do want to get into and talk about. But first, I just want to know a little bit more about you and kind of your history. We like to talk to everybody about what their journey was to even get to Steamboat to begin with.
So I have a great story. I came out here to Colorado specifically looking for a place to go to college, like most young people, and Steamboat was just kind of a passing through town for me. So I didn't even know there was a college here at the time, and I was with my dad, and we stopped at Winona's, and Christy Fox was our waitress, and she said, well, you're here to look at schools. Why don't you just ski every day and go to CMC?
Hello.
And-
Duh.
That sounds like sage
And eat
advice for
breakfast
Christy.
at Winona's every morning.
And, my eyes lit up, and my dad's hand just went down in his face, like, this is
He
it.
knew.
I'm done. So right after that, we went up there, checked it out, stayed in town for a couple weeks, ended up meeting Christy's husband, Scott, and then ended up going to CMC and babysat Christy and Scott's kids. And then they ended up babysitting mine. So that was kind of like a full circle thing. That's how it all started, and that was 1993.
1993. And so how long was it that it took you to realize that Steamboat is a place that you wanted to stay, not just ski every day, but actually plant some roots?
Not long.
Yeah.
Yeah, not long. I would say probably within that first year, just based on the faculty at CMC that ended up turning into my friends, the business owners in the community that I ended up meeting, just the whole vibe of the community made it pretty clear to me that I think I'd like to stay here for a while. So,
Yeah.
And here I am,
Yeah.
30 some years later.
You know what? You're not saying anything that's
Yeah.
untrue between
Right.
the two of us.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I moved up here right after college. I'd come up here most of my life during college and beforehand. Dave's been up here for, almost 30 years?
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah. and-
Not quite 30, 20, 25. But
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself a local, I guess, still. I think my kids are locals because, they're born and raised here, but
I know. I have the problem on the chairlift even now. After this many years, people say, "Oh, where are you from?" And I tell them where I was born, and my wife nudges me. She's like,
Same.
you've lived here in Steamboat longer than anywhere else. When someone says, "Where are you from now on, your answer should be Steamboat." But it just
Right.
still feels weird. I
Well,
don't know.
we spoke with Jay Fetcher, and
Yeah,
he
right.
doesn't even consider himself a local
Oh, yeah.
because he was 2 years old when his family moved here in the 1940s.
right,
So,
right. So I guess that's where we're getting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you've obviously lived here a long time. This community has meant a lot to you. Before you got into the work that you were doing now, what were you doing within the community?
So my first true love is early childhood education. And so I went to CMC and I received my early childhood education degree. And then immediately started working at Laurel Street Preschool, which was across the street from Soda Creek that sadly is no longer there. And then there was a period of time that I had to go back to school because my parents made me. And finish out my degree in education and came back to work for Laurel Street, became the executive director. And that's how I met a lot of families in the community that have, then since became my kids' babysitters after I had kids. And So that felt really amazing. And then as soon as I wanted to start my own family, I kind of realized I don't think I can do this all day and raise.
And then come home and do it some
and
more.
then come home and do that.
Oh,
So somewhere in there, I transitioned into healthcare.
Yeah. And of course, that transition ended up leading you to become the executive director at Reps, we're 9 years ago about?
Almost,
And,
yeah.
and at that time, I was reading that you didn't have a very close personal connection to the cause, but you had been someone that had been an advocate for suicide prevention for a long time. What was it that drew you to that line of work?
Well, the reason why I'm in the position today is because I had a local friend, Chris Corna, who we lost, who owned Slopeside, and I happened to be at his memorial service. And there was a Reps volunteer advocate there with, a tent and a table. And we got to talking, and they shared that they were looking for an executive director. And Chris and I were really close, and I was obviously really passionate about the cause, and so I went in for an interview, and here I am. So
Yeah, and I think what's startling to me is some of the statistics that are locally based that Rep shares. I think we all like to believe here in the Yampa Valley that we live in a bubble and we're protected from some of the things that affect the outside world, but suicide's not one of those things that we're protected from. It is a problem here, and Chris Corner was someone I knew very well, but I think there's so many other names that we could list off, unfortunately. As we get deeper into kind of this discussion, why, is there a reason, is there something that you find that is causing part of that within this community?
yes, I think it's a multitude of things. I don't think it's one singular thing, and it's unfortunately very common in other ski resort communities. Things we all are very familiar with: the cost of living, transportation issues, random schedules in terms of times of year when you're working and when you're not. It can cause a lot of financial hardship. So food insecurities. And a large one too is access to firearms. And so being in a rural community, it's just very common for a lot of people to have firearms. So access to those lethal means. I also think there's a lot of stress in our community, particularly around competition and just always feeling like we have to keep up with the next friend or the next family or whatever it might be. And so, but with all that being said, I really think we're making a lot of strides in reducing stigma and talking about mental health and sharing stories, because, that's how we move the needle and significant change happens, is when we all are vulnerable to sharing and just looking out for one another. And so there's a fly that really likes me.
Shoot, fly.
There's a fly that is just buzzing right around your head.
That's what happens when you're at the Dusky Grouse and the garage doors open.
It's totally fine.
I will say, can I interject? I mean, just for the benefit of Eli and the other listeners, the idea that you and I met like 2 years ago, I want to say. I didn't really know you before that. And like immediately, we got to talking one time, and immediately you started opening up about some of these things. And that struck me as very, vulnerable, but also like, wow, I really enjoy this person because they're so open to talking about that. And to me, and I'm just more of a comment than a question, just that to me speaks volumes when it comes to the work that you do, because you do something in a field that very many people would rather just probably sweep under the carpet and like, I don't want to talk about that. It's too big and scary. And so I think it does probably take a person like you who's open enough to be able to have these conversations. And you and I since have had open dialogue along a lot of different lines in that front. And I just feel very comfortable with you. So that, I don't know, from an outside perspective, I think you've found your niche, of course, and you already know that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And a part of, I think, I don't think I'm really doing anything, in particular like crazy special, but I think meeting people where they're at is, something that I think is really important because, being here for 30 years, you have a variety of different friend groups. I don't know about you, but, there's people that I met here when I was 18 years old that I'm still friends with, and people that, and all different, age demographics and, job descriptions and financial backgrounds. And it's really important that you keep in mind that everyone is going to suffer with something at some point in their life. And it doesn't matter who you are or where you are in your life. Just meet people where they're at and, try and empathize and be vulnerable and share what you have to share so they feel safe with you.
You brought up an interesting point about the competition in this community, which is not something. It's something I've known, but never thought of in that realm of that. It is. It seems like you're always hearing about the person who skinned the mountain in the morning and then went and ran a marathon in the afternoon, and all the things and posting to the Instagrams and the social media. And obviously, when you got the job at Rep, social media was around, but it wasn't quite as prevalent.
Right.
How has that really changed the work that you're doing, both in a positive but also in a negative way?
Well, I think the most negative impact we see is obviously with our youth and how it's affected our own kids in our community, elementary school, middle school, and high schoolers. But I think what we've had to do is look at that and how do we leverage it into something positive. So we've created some youth ambassador programs within the schools. We focus on just positive, healthy messaging. And we've utilized our social media platforms to raise awareness, reduce stigma, encourage open conversations, and encourage people to reach out for help when they need it. And it's working. We're making progress, slowly but surely. We are getting people connected to the resources that they need. And like to specifically answer your question, before social media became, at the forefront like it is now, we were real worried about how we were reaching people. It wasn't print advertising, like how we had, back then it was different, but now we have so many different options to reach people, and it's making an impact.
And, I've talked to some people that use your services, and I think what maybe some people don't realize is reaching everyone preventing suicide isn't necessarily a crisis intervention hotline. It's not something you're not interacting as much right at the time that someone's deciding or making a decision. You have year-round services that really are to try to make people understand, whether it's a competitive thing or whether it's a monetary thing or whatever is impacting their mental health right now, that you have a lot of resources to help people throughout the year, throughout their lives. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we have a variety of different programs. I would say our most utilized is our confidential and complementary counseling program. So that's a program that's available to anyone in the community. And we offer 5 free sessions of therapy with a licensed provider. And we contract with over 60 providers in the community. So there's, a likely chance that you're going to find someone that's a good fit. And, aside from that program, we offer loss assistance programs. So we're there for people after a loss has occurred, which is really important because people become at risk after they've been through a traumatic event. especially like a suicide loss. So we offer wraparound services for family and friends during times like that. To your point, we are not a 24/7 crisis clinic. We utilize 988 for that. But we do take crisis calls. And we do help people in times of crisis. Oftentimes more personally than professionally. So I think when people start realizing what you do and who you are in the community, they'll find a way to find you. You know, they will call you on your personal cell phone. It's part of the job. You know what I mean? And I joke with people all the time, and Anna, my coworker, and I are always saying, you know, always working, and it's kind of true because wherever we are, people are, can I ask you a question about my, you know, I'm really concerned about my so-and-so. So I'm grateful to be able to have that role in the community. Even though we're not a 24/7 crisis clinic, I'm grateful that people know who they need to reach out to if they're...
Sorry, real quick. One thing I've never asked you, Mindy, is when because you're around it so much, you can recognize, I'm sure, especially amongst people that you know, something changes in them, and you can probably see that shining glimmer in their eye fade. How often are you proactively, without them calling, like going up and approaching people, maybe more people that you know versus don't, but I'm just asking, like, does that come up?
Oh, a lot. And I'm so glad you mentioned that because a friend of mine who will remain anonymous, I ran into them at a winter festival here, music festival, and I asked how they were doing, and they responded, you know, I'm doing okay. And I'm like,
you read between the lines there. Yeah.
You know, talking to her for a couple minutes, I could just tell, like, something's off. And ended up sitting down for a while and talking to her and getting her connected to services. And, you know, I'm so grateful that we had that conversation, and I was there for her, and now she's thriving and doing great. So I think it is kind of just an innate, inherent thing inside of me that I've witnessed and been around my whole life. So I just have learned how to recognize it.
Yeah, good.
And I think I'd imagine it has to be kind of difficult and also a benefit being in a small community like this. I mean, you know so many people being here for 30 years, like we were talking about, you know, whether it's in the aftermath of a crisis or, you know, running into someone at a music festival, you probably know a lot of these people that are impacted. And how does that, you know, how are you able to kind of, for lack of a better term, compartmentalize or, you know, go out and still be, I mean, I've only met you here a couple times, talked to you on the phone, and you seem happy, you seem bubbly, but there's got to be a dark side to just the work that you're doing in your position in the community.
Well, I think a part of where that comes from, just like having work-life balance, is just the way I grew up. So I was around grief and death and dying and loss my whole life. And so just witnessing that on a daily basis and watching people, my own family, be compassionate and just being the helpers, it's kind of become just a part of who I am and also how I'm raising my own family. So, I mean, I've had my kids come to memorial services with me. I've had kids come to candlelight vigils with me because this is real. Like, this is real world, real life pain and suffering. And I want them to see the difference that, you know, you can make by just being there for people. And I think as a result, hopefully I'm raising compassionate, kind, you know, kids. And I think that they see that mom's life is really hard to just like work and family. And they get that. And we talk about it all the time, that there's a lot of crossover. I can't, it's impossible to be in this position and just go home and like turn it off. Because if the phone's ringing and, you know, you don't have anything going on, and I mean, I'm going to answer it. Like, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that by my board of directors, but it's just like an instinct, with me. Like, I need to get that. A cool story is that, a couple weeks ago, two solid weekends in a row, I had event tickets to somewhere in town, and something was just telling me, like, just don't go tonight. Like, just stay home and, like, take the night off. And I ended up getting called out on both of those nights and was able to be there for families that really needed me. And although it was, sadly tragic and really difficult, had I not made that decision, then I wouldn't have been there for them. So I think it's just something that you just feel.
I think something you feel. I mean, meaning I commend you. I think that is you're totally downplaying it, but that is so commendable. Like, that is very unique, Mindy, and I just feel compelled to say that out loud because this community does benefit greatly from the work you're doing. And so just, kudos to you because it's got to be very difficult.
Yeah.
But I also have learned to shake off the, to shake it all loose, because there are things that you have to do to take care of yourself, because secondary trauma is a real thing. And anyone that does this kind of work recognizes that. But, I've got it dialed in.
Well, and you're also not always working with the sad stories. You just mentioned your friend at the Winter Music Festival.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that was a positive
Very.
story.
I have a lot of positive stories.
I'm sure that helps you to move forward with the positive side of what you're doing. And to that end, being Suicide Prevention Month, you have one of your biggest fundraisers coming up at the end of the month, the Night of Hope and Healing.
That is
third
right.
annual. Can you
The
tell us a
third
little
annual.
about it?
Yes. So this is our third annual Night of Hope and Healing at the Old Town Pub on September 28th. And this year we are featuring a super special musical talent. His name's Hans Williams.
Should I drum roll?
Yeah, you can drum roll.
I want to talk about that in a second.
And he's just a gem of a human being and has a personal story associated with a suicide loss when he was in college with a roommate. And my colleague Anna met him at a show and started the conversation, and he said he would love to come out and play for our benefit. And he had a brother that lived in Leadville, so it was gonna all pan out beautifully. So we have live music, which is really what the night is focused around, and his music, which is so powerful, and really his lyrics and who he stands for aligns with our mission really well. So we just thought it would be a beautiful fit. So live music and food and drinks and an amazing silent auction and an opportunity for people to come and honor people that they've lost while also having a really enjoyable evening. So we have an area inside, and it's called our Honor Wall, and people are welcome to bring a photo of their lost loved one, light a candle. We have some other activities that they can do if it feels appropriate or comfortable, and honor them while also providing, hope to those that are struggling, and healing to those who have lost someone. So it's a powerful night, but it's amazing. It's an amazing night.
It's a powerful night and a powerful cause, and it is surrounded around the music. I'm really excited about Hans Williams. I hadn't heard of his music until a couple of weeks ago. It was actually Dave that said, "Hey, you need to check this guy
You're
out."
one of the first to know.
First of all, so I've got an 18-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And I just happened to mention at the dinner table, oh yeah, this fundraiser's coming up, and this guy Hans Williams, and she just it was like the record scratched in the background, like,
It's a big
wait,
deal.
what? And so I have since learned more, because I'll be honest, I didn't necessarily know him, say, 2 months ago. I've since started listening to him in heavy rotation. I love his music. He's being touted, if you read the headlines, he's being touted as on sort of that same trajectory as Noah Khan, who I know that name's resonating around the country and the world. So here, and Mindy, you just told me before that we went live here that you're on the board of the summer concert series. So I use that as a segue. Like, you know the ins and outs of booking big name acts, and here you've snagged what I would call like a pretty, you know, kind of a coup in terms of this guy's coming to Steamboat to play a private event that benefits reps, and not to diminish the merit of the entire evening and all the things you mentioned, but I would say personally, I would buy a ticket to this event simply to see Hans Williams within, you know, striking distance.
This may never happen again.
It may
I mean,
never.
that's
it could
the
be one
cool
of those
thing.
deals, like, you know, people that were here in the 90s,
Yes.
early 90s. Dave Matthews played at
Yes.
the Inferno. Sheryl
Yes,
Crow
I
played
saw
at the
Fish
pub,
there.
and like,
Save the posters, autograph a few. It will be commemorative.
It will be. And so our hope actually is that, you know, this relationship that we have developed with him and his band continue, and this event grow year after year after year. And he's willing to come and play for us.
Close 6th Street, you know, have it overflow out of the Old Town
I
pub.
mean, I feel like this is just the beginning of a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think it is. By the way, my daughter is now living in Santa Barbara, right? She went off to school. She's like, Dad, I'll skip class. Like, get me a ticket. I'm coming home.
Fly me
and
back.
she wants to see him so bad.
Well, I also have a 16-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old son, and they are counting the days.
I know.
And I will be getting them a ticket, and that's another unique thing to this year is that it's under 21 show. So, you know, we'll have all those things in place to make sure that the kids are safe, and we really want everyone to just come out and enjoy it. It's going to sell out really quick.
Oh, yeah.
And shameless plug, we've been playing the music on the Steamboat
Thank you.
Locals app and
Yes,
steamboatlocals.com.
I know.
Do you see a
Amazing.
spike in your listening? When
Yeah,
you, when
every
you
time
spin a
he
song?
comes on, my
Just-
18 and under crowd, the spike goes
I love it.
up.
I
We're
love
also
it.
hoping to interview him as part of our
That would be
Steamboat
amazing.
Soundcheck
That would be
podcast
so
as well.
amazing.
So hopefully that will come around. And, But again, you mentioned that this is, you know, it's not just healing, it's also a night of hope, and it's a fundraiser. Can you talk a little bit about what the money that is raised off of this will go to?
Yeah, so it goes to that one program I was speaking about earlier, the confidential and complementary counseling program. So that program is our largest program that we operate. Last year we served about 250 people in the community with free counseling. And we anticipate this year to probably spend about $150,000 on just that one program. So we hope to raise $100,000 this night of hope and healing, and all that money will go right back into that program. So it's a great cause, and even if you can't donate $100 to come to the event, because I understand that is a financial hardship for a lot of people, we do have scholarships available. We have generous donors that have offered to purchase tickets for those that may not otherwise be able to attend, but that we would like to be there, and we would like them to know that we want them there. So please reach out if that becomes a concern. But you can also just donate to the cause as well, and know that that money will also go right back into that community program.
What I think has been amazing about reps, and especially since the time that you came on board, is how much it's become a part of the community, and people are stepping up and giving back to it. You know, the Steamboat Christian Center gave a very generous amount earlier this year, but all of that money is really going to these incredible programs that are helping people, and with the growth of our community and some of the challenges, there's more and more help that's needed.
That's right, and it's always my biggest fear that I have to say, like, turn someone away from us being able to provide them help. So we will continue to work, you know, with what we have. We're a very small staff. We're you know, a staff of 2. We have incredibly dedicated and committed volunteers and a board of directors, but we like a small and intimate staff, so we are able to put all the money that we raise right back into the community.
And I think that one of the things we've talked about with just about everyone we talked with on this show, and you kind of led with it, about what kept you here in Steamboat was this community. Despite the challenges and despite the problems that make the statistics here kind of a little bit more than what they are in other places, what gives you hope? What are you looking forward towards in the future with all these programs that you're putting in place?
Well, I think it's smaller than that. I think it's like those little glimmers of people, like you mentioned, that I see every day that you have either sat down with or helped through the darkest days of their life, and then see them on the other side and they're in the community and they're thriving. That's what keeps me doing it. It's like the little success stories, and people that you've seen so in such a horrible place, and then see them out doing amazing things. That's what keeps me excited and going.
Yeah.
So it's not like one big project or any big thing. It's just, making a difference for just, people throughout the day or the week or the year that really keep me motivated.
And of course, we're looking forward to the Night of Hope and Healing, but you've got other projects that you're working on as well, other fundraiser events. Why don't we give a plug to those as well?
Okay, so we do have a really cool event coming up on Saturday, September 21st. A good friend of mine, ski movie producer John Padilla, we are hosting with him The Mountain in My Mind 3. So this is his third ski movie about mental health and how it relates to ski communities, the ski industry. And we'll be hosting that at Bud Werner Memorial Library. And there's all sorts of information out there.
Well, and just, sorry not to interrupt, but I saw the first one, I believe it was, and just a little teaser, like if somebody hasn't seen that really explains, or at least starts to bring up these subjects that you alluded to early in this interview of like, we're in these resort communities, you look around and everything's seemingly on the surface very bright and sunny and happy, and there's this whole underlying thing with all these subculture kind of influences that we experience in a small resort community that you touched on. That filmmaker, he's doing a great job really capturing that, because that's an important message, and to do it in a film the way he's done it, it's amazing. So it hit home for me when I saw that.
Yeah, thank you. John lost his brother, Jack, to suicide a couple years ago. He went to school at Cherry Creek High School in Denver. So we've gotten to know John really well. We have had him up here 3 years in a row. We've become really close with his family, and we just want to continue to support him and his journey with filmmaking, and most importantly, raising awareness and reducing stigma when it comes to talking about suicide and mental health in general.
And I think the stigma part of it is kind of interesting too, because when you look at the statistics again locally, it is affecting men quite a bit more, and I think it is a stigma for men to try to seek out the help that they need. They're supposed to be strong or resilient or all these things that our society has put onto the male of America.
Right.
And, I just wonder if you can speak to a little bit specifically what you can do to provide help for men, and kind of, I know that there's been a whole movement towards man therapy and things like that.
I'm proud of you for knowing that. There has, and from our organizational standpoint, we're doing a big push with, focusing on the demographic that we feel like we're losing the most, and that is men. And so I think the biggest thing we can do as a community is to just reach out to your people. If you notice something's off with someone, they're acting unusual, their behaviors are not like they used to be, maybe they're participating in more substance misuse than they have in the past, maybe it's reckless behavior, whatever it is, it's like, don't be afraid to ask the question and open up the conversation with people and just say, hey, something doesn't seem right with you. Are you considering suicide? Don't be afraid to say that. It's not going to put the idea in their head. That's a myth. And in fact, all the data suggests that if you were to ask that, someone that was seriously thinking about it would thank you for validating their feelings and being like, yeah, actually I have. And, okay, so then let's talk about that. Let's see how we can get you connected to someone. And someone that's not is going to say, no, I'm just going through whatever, a rough time, hasn't even crossed my mind, but thank you for asking. So that's really the big message, is to just, if you see something, just say something to them, or, a close friend or family member. And that goes for, your wives, your kids, your friends, but especially for the guys in our community. I do feel like we're starting to make some progress with that. And I will tell you that just this week, I have had 2 men call and reach out for counseling. And 10 years ago, that would have never happened. So I do know that we're making an impact and it's working. And we do have the data that suggests more men are reaching out now than ever before. So.
Well, it is incredible work that you're doing in reps, reaching everyone, preventing suicide. I know that we are looking forward to supporting the Night of Hope and Healing, but also just being supportive of everything that you're doing moving forward in the future, and trying to reduce that stigma and anything else that we can help with our community. Because as we kind of started this whole thing by saying, we can all list off names, or
We can.
go for bike rides and see memorials and things like that. And it's we want to reduce those things around here and have everybody just enjoy what Steamboat should be, which is a beautiful, happy place to live.
That's right.
So
Thank you.
thank you very much for joining us, Mindy Marriott, reaching everyone, preventing suicide. Just another common folk of the boat.